radio voice.
So we got Michael from Seattle, is it?
Yes.
How you
Michael.
doing?
I'm doing okay. My question has to do mainly with how we deal with between the moderate Christians, moderate religious people, and the more fundamentalist people.
Uh-huh.
Normally, when we talk about issues, we end up talking about the extreme end of things, but we end up, by default, we lump in the rest of religious people when that's not always the case. There are reasonable, to a degree, reasonable moderates out there.
Okay. When do you? May I jump in right away?
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
don't think that's true. I think that the religious beliefs are just as irrational at every point in the spectrum, right? They're more dangerous when we're talking about fundamentalists, but they're just as irrational whether you're talking about an extreme liberal Christian who only believes some of the stuff in the Bible, and a fundamentalist who believes every word. The beliefs themselves are just as irrational. And for me, my issue with Christians who are not fundamentalist is what they do is they provide cover by making it socially acceptable to believe all that stuff in the religion in the first place, which the fundamentalists then take and run with. So that's my take on the issue. Now, are they different? Sure, but as far as whether it's worth raising a big question mark when a moderate Christian speaks versus when a fundamentalist speaks, makes no difference to me.
And while I'm almost completely on board with Jeff, I think I might phrase it a little bit different about equally irrational. It'd be like somebody believes one irrational thing versus somebody who believes 10 irrational things. Each of the things are all irrational.
Agreed.
But the guy who believes 10 things is
quantity is
yes.
different.
Yeah.
Quality is identical.
But what you were addressing was the frequency with which we perhaps paint them with a broad brush. This is something that I've struggled with off and on over the years that we've been doing the show. Because I try to be as fair as possible. Don and I have had discussions where he'll bring up something from the Bible or something from Christianity in particular that I don't think represents any significant portion of the population or common understanding, and I'll note those things. And I try to be as careful as I can about saying, for example, when I talk about believers threatening people with hell, I freely acknowledge that there are plenty of Christians, plenty of people who label themselves as Christians who don't believe in a hell, who in any sense. And there are a number of different types of hell beliefs within Christianity, where there's annihilation theory, where you're not punished, you just cease to exist. And then there's hell for a temporary period of time, and it's just mostly bad. And then there's the eternal torment and stuff that I think is much more prevalent than a lot of people would like to admit. However, when it comes to painting them with a brush, not my fault, not my problem. If Christianity has 1,000 different denominations that call themselves Christian, they can't agree on any single issue of doctrine. There's every point of doctrine is objected to by some denomination that calls themselves Christian, right up to who Jesus was. Was he divine? Was he wholly divine? Was he man, half man? Was he some conglomeration? And when you leave a group to form a splinter group, but keep the name, that's your problem. I'm not you, obviously, but
No.
that is, they have to bear the onus for that. If they don't like being painted with the same broad brush as the people whose beliefs they don't share, maybe they should choose a different name and stand up and say, we're tired of being lumped in with those folks over there who are dangerous, who are harmful to society, and so we are going to call ourselves something else, and that way delineate.
That excuse me, that actually makes a lot of sense, and that's I wish moderates would stand up more and say we're not part of these people and get rid of make the fundamentalists shut up more.
Yeah.
But it also creates a problem when we're trying to get a common goal, like getting creationism out of schools. We don't want to piss off the moderates that are for getting it out of schools. But at the same time, we got to say these things against the fundamentalists.
I don't. While strategically it might be nice if we could get moderates on our side, I've just noticed over the years that's really hard to do. Because, I've personally experienced being snubbed by not moderate Christians, but liberal Christians, who still can't deal with the notion of working side by side with atheists.
Yeah.
Because the core thing is still there, the core idea that they have hold of the truth and that there's there's something wrong with those people that don't. So while it's, strategically it makes a lot of sense, I don't know that it's all that practical. It's worth trying, but if they won't come on board, or if they're bothered by the fact that, that when I say things like, ultimately I think the things you believe and the things they believe are equally crazy. I'm not going to stop stating my opinion just to achieve a strategic goal necessarily.
It's kind of like saying that science should soften itself in order to accept, the more moderate supernaturalist views. No, it doesn't. If you want to be part of the scientific community, you get involved and you submit to the rigors and strictures of science. And if you want to be involved in a reality-based community, sorry, it's like PZ said yesterday on the show. We're happy to work alongside you, but you have to realize that when you say something that's stupid, you're going to get filleted alive.
Okay.
It's not about intolerance of people. It's about intolerance of ideas and beliefs and the credulity.
It's about having standards.
Yeah. I will say, though, that you don't even have to go, you were talking about being snubbed by moderates and liberal theists. That's not the case with all of them. Reverend Barry,
not
Barry
all
Lynn.
of them. I'm just saying
it's not even the case with all fundamentalists. There are some fundamentalists who wouldn't snub us because they're so fundamentalist that they view us in a completely different light. But you don't even have to go that far. We've been snubbed by, I have been snubbed by elitist agnostics who think that it is absurd for us to use the atheist label and for us to challenge the claims of religious, because they are convinced that nobody can know this stuff. You're just, you are just as bad as them, and you guys are all bluster and talking about nonsense. And it drives me crazy because on the one hand, you have people who say, I believe that this is true, and therefore I'm going to legislate it onto everybody. And when I say, no, you shouldn't be allowed to do that, you've got somebody who says, well, you just don't know. No, I do know. I know that much. I know what I feel is right and wrong with regard to reality. But.
Okay. Well, that's it for my questions. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thanks for the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. I want to go back and amend something I said earlier. In fact, a very valid argument can be made that liberal Christianity is more crazy than fundamentalist Christianity. Because if you believe that there is an all-powerful entity who inspired the Bible, it's actually somewhat crazier to think that you then have the freedom to pick and choose. And fundamentalists are aware of this. I mean, when they say, hey, we have to take it all literally because otherwise we're denying the power of God, they're absolutely right.
Yeah, when Ken Ham sits there and says, well, if you get rid of Genesis, why not get rid of anything else in there? He's
absolutely
he's
right.
on the nose. And my answer is, I did!
Yeah.